Hi, welcome to the ROC Taiwan channel. In this video, I want to talk about some of the basic concepts to understanding the global politics. Like in recent years, there's a lot of global conflicts and lots of global news. And I find that a lot of people, when they see those events, the first thing they do is choose a side, and then they become the cheerleaders, and like they chant and they like support for their own side. And a lot of people, like, they just do a lot of copy and pasting and being a internet troll. And I think there's some ways of thinking that can make you being more objective on this kind of matters and make you see the whole story more clearly. And I don't think it's a surprise that a lot of people, they just choose a side, because every people has their pre-existing knowledge and their points of view from their environment of growing up and from their school education. But I think it's still very important to be objective and to be able to do critical thinking and have your own opinion, not just simply choosing a side. Okay, so let's start. First of all, I think on a global stage, there's no good guys or bad guys thing. Like, you have to understand every country and every people, like, they are for their own benefit and they are for their own beliefs. And people are different in different countries. Like, everyone has different cultures, they have different religions, they have a different way of thinking, they have different values, which all should be respected by foreign countries, because it's what's that country's people, like, how they do things and what they believe, right? And nothing is black or white or simply right or wrong. So, like, there are different side of stories on everything, and it's not a simple good or bad question. But since the United States has been the dominating single superpower for the past few decades, the United States has always wanted to sell the world this concept that the United States is the good guy and it's leading its allies, which are also the good guys, and like they are fighting against those villains like the Chinese, like Russia, like Iran, and maybe North Korea. And so they make the whole global affair like hero versus bad guy thing. But the world doesn't really work like this. It's just uh, propaganda that the United States want to sell to the world. So, what the world is really like, to use a metaphor, I think it's more suitable to think of the world as like in a gangster thing. Like, you're in a gangster world and every country is like big gangster, big gangs and small gangs, and like every country, like they are their own gangs. Then some of the gangs would form some allies, and some of them will work alone. And I think the best metaphor for the gang things is that the Italian mafia. So what's similar is the world to like the mafia world? Well, we know that the Italian mafia, they have like five biggest family, which the world also has five biggest country. I mean, not literally biggest, but in the United Nations structure, like there are five permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, which are the winning countries of the World War II, which is United States, China, United Kingdom, Russia, and France. And yeah, these five countries very similar to the mafia's five major families. So there are some unspoken rules after World War II. So first of all, like what we see in the previous slide, not all countries are equal. Like the world is mainly run by the five permanent members in the UN Security Council. And these five countries, like they are high above all other countries. Like they have more rights, and what they say means a lot more than the other countries. And a lot of general global rules doesn't apply to them either, because like most of the rule, if it comes to the UN, comes to the Security Council, then they have the right to veto. So like they are above the rules. Well, but we know that after World War II there was never a World War III. So we know there are some rules that keep us away from World War III. And so here are the main unspoken rules. The first one is that the nuclear superpowers don't go to direct war with each other. Because after World War II, human has made so many nuclear weapons, which can destroy the world like a few times already. So those superpowers, they know clearly that like if they go to direct war with each other, the conflict would get higher, and there's a higher chance that one of them would start a nuclear war, and then that means the destroy of the whole world. So they know very clearly that even they hate each other, they can start a nuclear war against each other. So what they found is that there's a way, like if their conflict has turned like more and more serious, and at the end it's turned to a war, then a war it has to be a proxy war. So what is a proxy war? That means that only one superpower can involve in the war directly, and the other side of the conflicts, the other superpower, like it can use all kind of aids, and they give military support to a proxy country that, and use that country to fight against the other superpower. So that's how the proxy war was played. And well, like all the war after World War II is mostly proxy wars, and during the Cold War era, it's almost always the two big players are always like United States and the Soviet Unions. And well, this role kind of save people away from like the World War III or from a nuclear war. So as the United States, like they always portray themselves as the hero or as the good guys or what. But in reality, like United States is just the biggest bully in the class, and it's more true after the collapse of the Soviet Union, because United States in the past few decades has been the single single superpower of the world. Like other other countries are no match to United States. So like he want to bully anyone, he just bully it. And if he think bully by himself is not enough, he will call his sidekicks like the United Kingdom and some Europe countries together to bully those countries that doesn't obey to him. So that is the reality of the world. But like in the recent years, China has catch up very quickly. So the world is like getting away from the unipolar world and getting into some multipolar era. Okay, so another concept we need to know is that global affairs have nothing to do with democracy or freedom, contrary to what United States has always tried to sell you. So here are some evidence. First, the so-called United States allies. They have lots of autocratic governments. Well, we can use examples like from the Cold War era. The United States allies, like there are dictators. For example, like the China, which the Republic of China, which is the Taiwan now, like the Jiang regime, like the Jiang family's regime, like they are dictators, and like but they are very friendly with the United States, and there are military governments like in Indonesia. There, the military government has killed like I remember hundreds of thousands of people in the name of like saying they are communists, and the U.S. has supported that act. And we know there are lots of military governments in Southern America. They are all good friends with United States, and even kings. Yeah, we know that there are lots of kings in the Middle East. Like the best example is Saudi Arabia, and also there are lots of kings in the African nation. So all this government has nothing to do with democracy or freedom. So the Cold War are just like two gangster, like they are trying to recruit as much of gang members as possible and try to fight each other to get more gang members. So it's like a gang thing. And the wars United States has conducted or involving are never about democracy or freedom. So it's always used the name of democracy to justify its action. It's always about money, it's about oil, and it's about power, which is just like a gangster world, right? Like all gangster, like they say they are for justice, they are the good side, but at the end, all those fightings they are just about money or territories or stuff like that. So yeah, so the global affairs like mostly involve those superpowers. It's just a balance of power, like in the gangster world. Like all all those wars are just for like the superpowers try to get more leverage over each other. And another important thing is that democracy is a domestic thing. Like a lot of people have this confusion that since United States is a democracy country, then it acts on the global stage is also democracy. No, no, no. Democracy is only inside the United States on a global scale. Like like I said, every country is like a gangster. Like they have their own gang. Like they try to fight for territory. They try to fight for money. And everyone for themselves. So here are some examples. Like it's Israel and Palestine conflict, for example. We know the world has overwhelmingly voted for a ceasefire and have overwhelmingly voted for recognition of Palestine as a state, which happened decades ago. But the US has vetoed all the way for decades. So it's like the world against United States and Israel. So what kind of democracy is this if you call this democracy? So stop having those illusion of the world is run like a democracy country or democracy rule, because the world is not. Okay, so another example is like the United States have the CIA that conducted numerous assassination and proxy wars in foreign countries, and all those dirty jobs are just to try to make a regime change, which they don't like those government which are hostile to United States, and they want to just implant a more friendly one, or the one that the United States can control. So what kind of democracy would let you assassinate someone that you don't like, or you just kick them out using those proxy wars or regime changes? So yeah, like I said, the world is never a democracy. And the United States have invaded Iraq for nothing but some fake weapon of mass destruction evidence, and it was never punished for the war crime. So like if it's a democracy, then by the rule of law, like maybe United States should be tried, and at least it should compensate for Iraq for all the sufferers the Iraq people have, right? But no, because I said before, the world is a gangster, and like United States are those special members that are above the rules, above the general rule. So like they don't need to compensate for anything, and they don't even have to say sorry for their acts. Okay, I think it's dangerous to force one's ideologies on other countries. I think the West has this missionary style of thinking. Like in the Middle Age, missionary would like, because they want to expand their religion. So first you have to have a belief. Like so, the West always have this belief is that my way is the only right way. Okay, so like the US think like whatever the United States do is the right thing. Okay, so since you are the right side, so then it thinks I have to push and teach the right way to all the world. So like it try to sell its role, sell its ideology to all the others. And sometimes not just sell, it's try to force the other country to take it. And if the people that don't obey with them, then they are my enemy. Okay, so this is the missionary style of thinking, and this kind of thinking is like how all the war of religion used to start in the old days. Like we know a lot of wars in the Europe are in the name of God, in the name of religions, and of course the war today in the Middle East are are still in the name of religion. And this is the part which I found interesting, is that in East Asia, like there are seldom any war that is due to those religion conflicts or stuff. Like the East Asia country, I think they are more practical, and it's more about profits or more about territory things. So at least I would try to give some advices to, like, if you want to view the global affairs more clearly. First of all, watch less Marvel hero movies, cause this kind of movie, like their setting is like in a black and white world, and it's nothing like the real world. What instead you should watch more gangs movies or dramas, for example, like maybe narcos drama, and like all all those Mexican narcos. Like, of course, the main characters may seem to be a good guy, but you wouldn't recognize with the main character, because in the end he's still just one of the narcos. Maybe he was the biggest one, but yeah, he's still a gangster. Yeah, it's kind of like in Godfather. Like, yeah, Michael has killed a lot of enemies and has become the dominant power. But well, is he the good guy? No, you don't. You will never say that he's a good guy. He's just a like the winner in a game fight. Then I would say you should read news from diversified sources and countries, because a lot of news on media today, like, they are biased, and some of them are intentionally biased, and but some of them, like, they aren't intentional, but they are still biased, which is a normal thing, because, like, if you grow up in this region and you all your information is like in a certain style, then you have your own bias of viewing things. So, like, maybe this media in this country doesn't want to be biased, but if you look in a more objective ways, you are still biased. So to solve this, you must view different videos from different countries, like, so you can get different kind of point of view of things, and you can hear different parts of the stories, and then you can get a more whole picture. And you can avoid the extremely biased and radical ones, since most of them are just trying to feed propaganda for a very small, radical, extreme portion of their viewers. Yeah, and this is a thing I find very funny, that, like, a few years ago, like, the MAGA crowd, like, they always say the mainstream medias are all fake medias, fake news, and at the same time, they turn to Fox, they turn to QAnon, which have even more fake news. So, like, you say CNN has fake news doesn't mean that you should go to Fox or like QAnon. It's like maybe CNN has 20% fake news, and Fox maybe have 50% fake news, and QAnon maybe have 80% fake news. So why would you just say it's the mainstream media has fake news, so you would So it would justify you to go to those extremely biased small media, those online media, and yeah. So if you can think more clearly, you wouldn't do this kind of things. And I think you should try to understand why other countries and other people have their way of thinking. It's not like that you have to agree with them, but it's good. It's usually good to hear like from another point of view. Like for example, we know that those jihadists in the Middle East, we know like they have lots of cruel actions and like some of them are terrorists. But like sometimes if you listen to what they are saying, like you can try to understand why they have those extreme thoughts and like why do they do those extreme stuffs. Because you have to know that while they are doing those like terrorist acts, they are putting their lives on the table also. Like they can be killed any moment themselves, but they still choose to do it. So it's kind of interesting to know what kind of history or background would make people do this kind of stuff. Well, of course, normal people wouldn't agree with them or wouldn't recognize this with them, but you can try to understand it. Okay, and then I think it's good to learn history from an objective viewpoint, because history are about things that have already passed, and things have passed is like already been done and all the facts are there. And the further the history is, like there are less incentive for people to like bias on those stuff, because a fact is a fact. And learn history can make you learn about the current situation more. And a lot of current conflicts also comes from like the history of a long hatred or long conflict between the two. So you can never look only on the surface. For example, like the Israel, we know like they try to sell this kind of thinking that Hamas started all the war first on October last year, which is a very biased story, because we know the conflict didn't start last October. The conflict started when the UK and the United States planted Israel at where they are right now, which is decades ago. And the conflict started from there. And there were wars, there were genocide, there were terrorist attacks, there were all kind of stuff. It was like a few decades of conflict and hatred. And yeah, so you don't do the math this way, like saying Hamas giving the first punch. No, no, no. The story is far more complicated than this. And even if you start the count from last October, the Israel has killed like at least 10 times or 10 or at least 10 times more Palestinian people than Hamas has killed Israel's. So yeah, you are conducting a genocide right now, Israel. That's a fact. So, well, this example is that you never look only on the surface. Like you don't just read what the Israel news tells you. You have to like know the history, know all the facts, and you can get a more clear picture. So yeah, these are some of the concept I think is good for you if you want to like understand the global affairs more clearly, and more you can have more depth on your view on things. So yeah, this is some of my advice, and thank you for listening.